Hello, in this video I will be doing a showcase on our GammaGuard app. GammaGuard is a companion app to our CT007 devices, which are a group of small handheld radiation detectors that can connect to GammaGuard to provide a rich user interface, data logging, and data analysis tools. The CT007 detectors themselves have a very simple and easy to use local interface that can also be operated without a phone. Currently we have 4 instruments in the product lineup. The CT007M, which is a micro-arm meter that specializes with low-level gamma rays. The CT007N nanonuke is a pocket-sized sensitive gamma detector, which is also seen on screen now. The CT007F contamination detector specializes in being able to detect gamma and optionally alpha and beta to measure contamination. The CT007P pancake is based off the industry standard 2-inch pancake Geiger tube, allowing for more sensitivity compared to the F, and users are able to follow procedures that take advantage of the 2-inch pancake Geiger tube. If you would like more information on the CT007 detectors, we have a product selection guide video that will pop up on screen now and also be linked in the description below. We are also working on a new neutron detector that will eventually be added to the CT007 lineup. In this latest release of GammaGuard, we have added a feature-filled graphing system, as well as many more data analysis features. Upon opening the app, you will be greeted with the home page. The home page will list all of the devices available within range of the iOS device, stating the name of the detector, connection strength, and giving you the option to connect. Devices will only pop up on screen if they are turned on and the app is scanning for devices. You can tell if the app is scanning by looking at the message under Welcome to GammaGuard. As you can see here, it says 0 devices found. If it says any number of devices are found, then the app is not scanning. You can also tell by the blue bar down here if it says start scanning, that means it's not currently scanning. So I'm going to turn on the device right now by long pressing for 3 seconds, then let go. The device is now on, and I'll restart the scan. Right away it popped up there, it says CT-N-15, matches up with this device here. It shows the connection strength right there, and the option to connect to the device. I will now connect to the device. During the connection process, the app reads lots of information from the device, such as stored settings and device-specific details. The display on the detector also turns off when connected to the iOS device, but it can be turned on by simply pressing the button. And you can also turn it off by pressing it a couple more times. And this time should turn it off. There we go. Before I go over the different views, I will explain what the app does to calculate the values that are provided to the user. I'll be using the details view to go along with my explanation. Counts are read from the detector every second, which is shown by the counts value at the top here, labeled counts. This value jumps around a lot, even if it's in a steady radiation field. So in order to get a more stable value, we have to average these readings over time. The longer we average over, the more stable the value becomes, but the less responsive it gets, and therefore we may miss short-term events or be late to see a spike. Within the settings on GammaGuard, the response time can be set to a value between 1 and 30 seconds, or it can be set to 0 to have the response time automatically adjust to achieve a specific accuracy. By default, the CT007 instruments are in automatic mode, which it is in right now. Automatic mode increases the response time until it has accumulated a certain amount of counts. By default, the minimum counts is 100, which corresponds to a statistical accuracy of plus or minus 10%, but it can also be configured in the settings. After this averaging has been done, the result of the calculation is a value with the units of counts per minute, or CPM. From the CPM value, we can convert to dose rate by using a conversion factor from counts to dose. Each instrument will have a different conversion factor depending on how sensitive it is. Higher sensitivity detectors will have a smaller dose per count conversion factor than an instrument with a lower sensitivity. To better help understand how response time and minimum counts affect the data, I will use a graph from the archive. I've begun it off here with a response time of 1, and as you can see, the data is very hard to read, but very responsive. If I go in to zoom in on this spike, you can see it jumps up to these high values immediately. And that's because it's averaged over 1 second. Now if I bump this up to 5, the readability is increased a little bit, but the response drops. So as you can see, this spike is a lot easier to see. The data overall is easier to read, but the responsiveness is a lot worse. As you can see, it takes a couple seconds to get up to this top point here. And if I increase it to 10, the same thing happens. Readability increases, response time drops. And you can see this again here. Look at how many points there are on the way up to the top. And if I put it all the way up to 30, it's a very nice data to look at, but the response time of this spike takes quite a while to get up to the top. So to combat that, we've added automatic mode. You get there by setting the response time to 0. Now, as I've explained before, it adds up the values until it reaches the minimum counts, which currently is set to 100. So all these lower values where it's not getting many counts is going to have a higher response time than up here, because these higher values receive more counts in that interval, and therefore the response time at these points is going to be lower. So the idea is that these spikes here are going to increase and be more responsive because the minimum counts is met earlier. Now if I drop this minimum counts value down to 1, you can see it almost looks like a response time of 1 because it meets that minimum counts value almost immediately. And if I increase this up to 1000, it's never going to meet that value, so it just stops at a response time of 30. So this will look the exact same as if I set the response time to 30 here. Whoops. There we go. Looks the exact same as if I set it to automatic, and there we go. So hopefully that helped understand how response time and minimum counts works. Now we will get back into looking at the different views for interpreting data from the external detectors. First off, we have the simple view. This view, we have a big analog dial giving a visual of how close the current rate is to the next warning level, as well as the rate in big text in the middle. All of the views except for the graph view have a disconnect button, log data button, connection strength, device name, connection status, battery level, and units, all on screen. The simple view only has two purposes, and that is to show the rate and give a visual warning level. Every view, including the graph, has the mode button in the top right corner, as you can see right here. This switches from gamma mode to contamination mode, as I will do right now. And you can see at the top it lists what mode it is in. Gamma mode shows dose rate, whereas contamination mode shows count rate. The last thing to show on the simple view is the warning levels. The warning levels can be modified to your liking in the settings menu. To access the settings menu, just tap the three lines up in the top left corner, go to settings, and we will go down to the warning levels. Now we're at them. Notice that there's one section for gamma mode and one for contamination mode. Just to keep it simple, I will show you what the warning levels look like on gamma mode, as it is essentially the same for contamination mode. So first off, I will show what it looks like when you're in the yellow warning level. So I'm going to lower this to 0 microsieverts an hour. We'll go back and we can see now we have a yellow bar on the top. And actually, let me just switch one more thing quickly, just so we have a better scale. So we'll change the red warning level to, let's just turn this on so I can see what it'll be. Let's change it to 0.5. Now if we go back, we can see it's scaled relative to 0.5, and we can see that not only is the dial yellow, but so is the navigation bar. Now I will show the red warning level. We will drop this to 0.1, and we will drop the full scale to, let's just put it at 1 for now. Now you can see we're in the red level, and it is scaled to 1 as the maximum. Next we have the details view. This is next to the simple view. This view shows counts that were received in the past second, as I've already gone over, the current rate, the total dose and counts, the total time, and the overall rate, which some of these will change when you're going to contamination mode, but the counts value at the top doesn't change. The rest do, depending on the mode that you're in. This view is simple, but it gives a little bit more information that can sometimes be helpful to the user. Next up is the interpret view. It again has the rate and the total dose / counts on the screen. In addition, it also has a message at the bottom that will say something different depending on the mode that you are in and the detector that you are currently connected to. While in gamma mode, it takes the current dose rate and tells you how long you can receive that dose rate before reaching both the routine and the emergency dose limits, as well as percentage-wise how close you are to the limits. This is useful to someone that is working in an environment where there are elevated levels of radiation, so that they know how long they can be in the area and if they need to get out. While in contamination mode, the app checks whether the detector is capable of measuring contamination. If it is capable, the message will say whether or not the measured area exceeds the hot zone level. As I've stated when I went over the 4 detectors that we have in our lineup, the N is not capable of doing contamination. So let me quickly swap out, and I will connect to an F detector and be able to show you guys what the message looks like in contamination mode. So I'm just going to disconnect here, and I'm going to put this device off to the side. Here's the F03 detector, and I'm going to restart the scan. See, it shows up, and I'm going to connect to it. Now that we're connected to the F detector, we can see a different message on screen than when we're connected to the N. Here's the F detector, and here's the shield that blocks out the alpha and beta radiation. You can open it up to allow it in, or close it back up to only allow the gamma. Right now I'm not going to go over how to measure contamination, but I just wanted to show how this view works. So this device has a hot zone level of 100 CPM, and so if we go over this source, the CPM is going to rise, and now it says we've exceeded the hot zone level. That's how this view works, but that is not how to correctly measure contamination. The last view is the graph view. The graph gives a nice visual representation of rate over time, with points every second. There are 3 types of graphs: recent graph, history graph, and the selected interval graph. You start on the recent graph, which will show you the most recent 20 minutes of data. Once there are over 100 points on the graph, which there is right now, the View History button becomes active, allowing you to view the history graph. So I'm going to open it up right now just by tapping the View History button right here. The history graph will plot 100 points, 50 of which are maximum points, shown by the red, and 50 are minimum points, shown in the bluish purple. It will split the entire recorded data into 50 intervals and find the maximum and minimum values within each interval. In order to access the last graph, you must tap on a point on the history graph, and the View Interval button will become active up in the top right. And so you can tap that, and what this graph does is it will be centered around the point that you had just selected, with 10 minutes of data on each side, once again with data every second. Now that I've gone over the 3 graph types, I will explain the rest of the view. As you probably noticed, when I tapped a point, a lot of information popped up. On the graph, it highlights the selected point and shows the rate, as well as below the graph it shows GPS coordinates, time, and rate. Next to all this information, below the graph is an Open Map button, which will open up the GPS coordinates of that point in the Apple Maps app. So I'll do that right now. As you can see, it opens up the location. Now this is on the default mapping view, but I can change it to satellite by tapping the eye up on the top. Go to satellite, back out, and it's another nice little view you can have here. You can see wherever the data point was taken. So we'll go back to the app. The very bottom of the view is a response time and minimum count slider. These work independently of the ones I explained earlier that are located in the settings menu. Editing these values will reload the graph using the new values. You can edit them both by using the slider and tapping the label to enter a number manually. And I'll show both options right now. So you can slide, go to 30 seconds, or you can tap to enter 0 to go back to auto. You can tap enter 1, go to a response time of 1. We'll just go back to auto for now because it makes it look nice. The graph is very useful for covering a big area and locating sources or monitoring for elevated levels of radiation. Next, we're going to go back to the settings menu and go over some settings that are important that we haven't gone over yet. First up, we have the units. As you can see, there's more units that you can actually switch to here. Notice that these are all dose units and will not change when you're in contamination mode. So let's go to millisieverts per hour just as an example. And now we can see that we're showing in millisieverts an hour, which is too small of a unit to really show up. The graph, you can actually see it's still working, it's just a very small decimal, as you can see. If we go back though and switch to contamination mode, it still just shows CPM. Nothing has changed. The next setting we'll go over is logging. Logging has its own little section in the settings here. You can turn it on by just flipping the switch on. Now if we go back to the simple view or details or interpret, they all have this log data button now that's active. We can tap it to create log points in our file. Logging creates a CSV file that will add a timestamped data set every time the app is told to log. And so one of the ways that you do that is by just tapping this button. You also have an option to create a logging interval. So essentially it will create a data set at every, say, 5 seconds if we set it to 5 seconds, 300 seconds, and whatever you really want. So you can go to 5 seconds there, and we'll let it run for a while. We'll show the CSV file in a little, but now it will be creating logs every 5 seconds. This data set that it creates includes the device name, battery level, conversion factor, current dose rate, and total dose. And if we go back, there was one other thing in this section, and that's sending log file by email. If you're signed in on the device and you tap this button, it will create an email for you that you can send to whoever you want. It will attach the file automatically, and you can send it to yourself, you can send it to someone else, and then you can open that CSV file up and view it. In addition to emailing, you can also open up iTunes on your computer and use their file sharing feature to retrieve the log file from your device. I'm going to quickly show you how you can get the file through iTunes and also show what the file actually looks like. So when you open up iTunes, you'll find your device up here near the top left corner. You can click on it, go to File Sharing, click on GammaGuard. It'll take a while to load. Then you see the external folder. You can save that, and we'll just put it right here. Okay. Now, in the File Explorer, we can see the external folder here, and there's the CSV. Now I'll quickly switch to Excel and open that file up. You can use any CSV viewer that you want, but I'm just going to use Excel because that's what I have. And there you go, this is what it looks like. So you have an entry for whatever the auto log was, or if you're doing manual logs, device name, battery level, conversion factor, the short average, and the total dose. Okay, now we're back. Let's go over the detector noises. So first off, let's just turn that off so it's not in the way. And the detector is limited to only being able to play one of the sounds at a time, so it can either have the alarm or the beeping. Also, the device has to be on, so if I wanted to, I'd have to press this button and then it will start playing. So first off, let's go with the beeping. So now the beeping's on. Now you can hear it beeping for every count it receives. And back again. And you can hear it speeding up. But notice that when I turn it off, there are no noises. So it has to be on. But this does continue working while the detector is disconnected from the iOS device. It doesn't need to be connected for this sound to play. So let's switch it over to the alarm. Whoops, up here. Go back. And it should be set to 1 microsievert is where the alarm should go off at. So let's see how that works. Okay, it's getting close. Almost there. And that's what the alarm sounds like on the detector. Next up, I'm going to go over how the graph archive works. The graph archive is accessible through the side menu, and you just go there. Here, all the graphs that we've recorded pop up. It shows their date, a delete button, their name, the device name that was used, and the button to open it. You're able to tap on the name to rechange it to whatever you want. And it will change the name, and this setting will save. Graphs that don't have 100 points, so if you're recording and you didn't get 100 points on it, it won't be here and it will actually just delete. But a graph with only 100 points was only 100 seconds. I'm now going to open up a graph and we can take a look at it. So the first thing that you may notice is that there's no recent graph. We only have the history and the selected interval graphs. And other than that, it works the same as the live graph. One other thing to note is that if you don't have the live graph enabled, you will not be recording graphs to the archive. The last thing I will go over in the app is a couple more things in the side menu. First off, we have the About menu. This section is nice because you can have quick links to helpful stuff that's related to the app, such as our website, external detectors, some resources page that will just have some documentation on various things related to our detectors, related to the app, and just related to radiation in general, and a contact us link that you can go to if you ever need help. Also in the side menu is a version number. Currently it says we're on 1.6, and you can verify that you're on the most up-to-date version by looking at the App Store. Thank you for watching. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments or contact us on our website. If you are interested in getting your hands on this technology, the link to our website will be in the description. Please check out our other videos to see what other technology we are working on.